Hey, good afternoon. I'm Mark from boatsandbikes.com, and I am psyched because today we have a perfect paddling day, blue sky, blue water, and this beautiful blue Eddyline Falcon S-18. We're going to review that for you today. Take a look at it. Now, I don't work for the company. I don't sell their boats, so you get nothing today but my own twisted opinions. Let's take a look. But anytime you're talking about a boat from Eddyline, you have to have a discussion about material, about hull material. And this particular boat is actually made out of Carbonlite 2000, they call it. It's thermoformed plastic. And, you know, thermoformed plastic, kind of interesting. Let's take a closer look at it. When you're talking about this type of plastic, you don't want to confuse it with a roto-molded plastic boat. Very, very different. Roto-molded plastic is built in a heat tube or a heat mold where they melt the plastic, spin the mold, and let it cool. Thermoformed plastic is built in layers. It's a much higher technology, and what you get is a material that looks like fiberglass. It really shines like fiberglass. Pretty color, pretty finish to it, shininess to it, a smoothness to it, a rigidity to it, and very, very strong. You can see I can actually flex it. You know, but unlike fiberglass, when I flex it, I don't know if you can see that flexing there. When I flex it, it doesn't crack like gel coat will. So it tends to be more rigid than a rotomolded boat. Not quite as rigid as a glass boat, but much more prone to holding up if you bash into rocks. It doesn't pill up quite as easily. It doesn't scratch up quite as easily as rotomolded plastic. It also doesn't tend to crack like gel coat does because it does have some give and take. So in many ways, it's kind of the perfect wonder material. And I think over the years, we're going to see more and more kayaks made out of thermoformed plastics. They also tend to be a little bit cheaper than comparable glass boats. So thermoformed plastic, really something to think about. Now, it isn't the perfect material, nothing is. Some of the downsides to thermoformed plastic are that, you know, this boat, or a pure thermoformed plastic boat, will still get some flex to it. You know, I paddled an S-2000, I'm sorry, an S-18 for about a season, maybe short of a season, and loved it. You know, it's great, it's rigid, it's stiff. But when you come off a wave, when the boat slaps down, you can still feel some flex to it that you would never get in a pure glass boat. Not as much as you're going to get in a roto boat, but still some flex. So, you know, great material, really fantastic, but it does have its drawbacks. The other thing is, you know, some people will argue that a fiberglass boat is more repairable. Other people will tell you, no, that's not really true, that these thermoform boats are more repairable. I don't know what's right. I think that, you know, you don't want to have to repair your boat either way. And the thing about a thermoformed plastic boat is you're less likely to have damage to it in the first place. This is a Swede form boat. And when I say a Swede form boat, what that means is that the cockpit is set back a little bit. It isn't centered. And so what that really does for you, it makes the boat feel just a little bit more stable. It kind of tricks it into feeling a little more stable, although I don't know that this is a boat that feels dramatically stable even with that. It tends to make it just a little bit better going into the surf, you know, weights the back of the boat just a little bit. Also makes it a little harder to turn, but you know, I think for the style of boat, for these racing types of boats or these fast boats, sliding the cockpit back a little bit makes good sense. So Swede form, and you know, as you start to look at the boat, I love the boat from the top. I think it's just really sexy the way they did this. So, you know, just a really pretty looking boat, but it's kind of funny when you get to the side. It almost looks a little bit like it was designed by committee. Starting up in the bow, it's got this kind of really shallow entry. And when you're in the boat, you know, it doesn't actually touch the water for, you know, I don't know, whatever it is, you know, a foot and a half back. So this is a 19.9 boat or something, but I'm sorry, and a 17.9, I believe is what it is, but it's just shy of 18 feet and 21 inches across. So very long, very narrow, but as far as actual waterline, it starts a little bit late and ends really late too. So they run that skeg, the built-in kind of hull skeg all the way back. You know, kind of interesting the way they did this. It's a little bit thick in the tail, a little bit narrow in the bow. So what does all this mean to you? Well, we'll flip it over and take a look at the hull, but You know, in general, the characteristics of this boat are it's very, very fast. It's also just a little bit tippy, and you know, when you put it into waves, because of the length and because of the cockpit being set back just a bit, what you find is that it likes to punch into waves as opposed to kind of riding over them. There's not a lot of volume here at this kind of front pointy part. So what happens is you go into a wave, you know, the boat sort of buries itself up to about here before the volume can kind of lift it up and over the wave. So that's fine, but that shallow entry does make it very, very quick. And the other thing about it, because it is so long, because it has that built-in keel, it tends to track very well. You know, it's a very nice, straightforward type of boat. Let's flip it over and take a look at the hull design. Eddyline will actually tell you that this is a V-shape hull. Let's get a look at that. And you know, I guess it is. I mean, it's a pretty rounded V hull. Yeah, I would tend to calling it more of a rounded hull than anything. But you know what you get here. So let's take a look here. You can see that shallow entry I talked about. Real shallow entry. Nice long, easy surface. And then as you get to the back here, there's our skeg box. So the skeg pops out of there. And then you've got the built-in hull skeg back here. Now, let's talk about the outfitting on this beastie. Typical deck line, typical handles. You know, again, this one is using the flush mount hatches. I think I like the newer style hatches a little better, but it's, you know, it's not a deal breaker either way. If you find one of these with a flush mount, you can do just fine. Just keep your seals clean. This one also has the upgraded seat. You can either get it with a back band or this back brace. The back brace built into the seat, the back band suspended. And you know, I'm not sure which one's better. I've only used the back brace in any of my boats, but I found it quite comfortable. There's a bit of a polarizing effect with these Eddylines that we'll be talking about as we look at this boat. One of them is about the seats. A lot of people don't love them. I've never really had a problem with it. Standard, what I'll call keyhole cockpit, no problem getting in there with the knee braces. Some people say that these knee braces are a little bit high. Never had a problem with them. And if you do find that yours are a little high, you can pat them down with a little bit of foam to bring it down an inch or a half inch or whatever it is that you need. Inside, this boat is using a standard style, and if you can see those, a standard style plastic foot brace. And you can also see they have a glued in type bulkhead, which is what they have to do when they're working in this thermoformed plastic. The newer boats use an adjustable style pedal and still have the glued in hatch. The other thing I want to point out about this boat, and we'll see it when we flip it over, but take a look at this. It is a skeg boat with a skeg slider right behind the cockpit. You know, the storage on this thing isn't bad. You've got, you know, I would say typical room for a sea kayak of this size. This skeg box takes up a little bit in the stern, but you know, it's that fairly chunky tail, and you can get some stuff in there. The hatches aren't huge; they're bigger on the ones with the oval snap-in hatches. So you have to you know, make your thing small enough to get in, but it'll store okay. So a good fast tourer. You know, the downfall is going to be if you want a boat that can sort of undertake anything, a boat that you can trust, you know, when the squalls kick up. There's probably more confident boats out there. Not necessarily faster boats, but definitely more confident boats. So this is a great inland tour. I mean, I could see running the Chesapeake Bay in this boat. I could certainly see, you know, any kind of lake or river tour. I could certainly see oceans on a day where it's anything less than a major challenge. You know, it would be fun. But if you're going out on, you know, on a 6-foot day out into the ocean, or you've got, you know, heavy wind, you're not sure what's going to be coming up, and you want to be ready for anything, there might be better boat choices. Now, on the other hand, if you want to go racing on Saturday and go for a 2-day tour Sunday and Monday, this would be an excellent choice.